All right, this is going on page 40 when we are done. This is now an Algebra 1 TEK, meaning that when you were in Algebra 1, this was when you first learned this, because they're pushing like everything down to the lower grades. And then should have done it again in Algebra 2. If you were in regular Algebra 2, you may not have, but everybody should have done it in Algebra 1. So it should at least look familiar to you and start kind of all coming back. But we're going to back up real far to just normal long division because I want to make sure that you have this tied to this. I know y'all know how to do this because this is what sometimes I see like all over your paper for crazy, absolutely no reason, but you enjoy doing it for some reason, I don't know. So we're going to take 13 and divide it into 5,467. So 13 divides into 5,467, right? So the first thing I look at is I take these first, the 13, and how many times would it go into 54? How many times? 34. So 3 would give me 39. Another 13 would give me 52. So there's actually 4, okay? So 4, so this gives me 52. Then what do I do with these two numbers? I subtract, right? So then this is going to give me 2, and I bring down the 6. How many times does 13 go into 26? Twice. So 2 times 13 is 26. I subtract again and I get 0. So am I done then? Is it 42? No. I got to bring down the 7. And you haven't filled in all these spaces up here. So how many times does 13 go into 7? 0 times. There's a 0 here, right? And then 0 times 13 is 0. So then guess what? You have 7, which is a remainder. So when you very first learn to do this, you probably put like remainder 7 out to the side. But to really get the number out of this is 420. And you put 7 over what? 13. So it's 420 and 7/13. Make sense? If you can do that, you can do the rest of this. All right? That's all. That's basically what we're doing, but we have variables in it, and sometimes that makes it a lot easier because you're not having to actually, know your multiplication facts and stuff. All right, so let's look at number 4. We're going to start with number 4. And when you make your little division sign, make sure you leave room to actually write above it. So we get 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 37x plus 12. And I'm going to divide x plus 4 into that. So, as a review for everybody, because it always can help to have a little bit of a review, when you go to divide this, all you were concerned with in your first step is this x, and basically like how many times does it go into 3x cubed? Well, to figure that out, you can actually divide them. It's like if I took 3x cubed and divided it by x, what would I be left with? 3x squared, right? I'd be left with 3x squared. So now where you put it above here matters. Since it's 3x squared, it has to go above the x squared term. 3x squared. Now, I didn't care about the 4 when I was figuring that out. But now I take this 3x squared and I have to multiply it by both of these. So 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. And then 3x squared times 4 is a positive 12x squared. Then just like before, we're going to subtract these. Now, what we're doing is we are subtracting the whole thing, which basically means you are distributing a -1. Make sense? So what I would suggest, instead of like writing minus the whole thing every time, is just to go through and change the signs on each one of them. That way you can make sure it's multiplied through. So I change the signs, and then I can kind of ignore that. So then these 0 out. That's what we expected. So this is now a positive 2x squared and a negative 12x squared. So that's negative 10x squared. Then I bring down the negative 37x. So now I take x. Don't worry about the 4 right now. X, and how many times does it go into a negative 10x squared? Negative 10x. So then I multiply, and I get negative 10x squared minus 40x. Then I go through and change the signs. Plus, plus. These 0 out, and we get 3x, and we bring down the 12. So then x goes into 3x, a positive 3 times. So then I get 3x plus 12. Then when I change the signs on each, I get 0. So my remainder is 0. Which means when I divide that out, I get 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. So in the end, then, if I take this trinomial and multiply it by x plus 4, then I will get what I have in purple there. It's a way to factor instead of using grouping, but it's a way to factor when you can't use grouping, and you have to know one of the factors, obviously. So we know that one of the factors is x plus 4, and then we can get the rest of it from there. Okay? We good? All right. Sound familiar? Yes. Okay. Now each one of we're not doing every single one of these, but the ones that we are doing, because something a little bit different happens each time, so I want to make sure that we remember all those little intricacies. Plus, even though you've done it before, I'm not sure if you did like every single different thing that can come up. So I want to make sure I cover some of those. All right, so let's try number 5. So number 5, a is not 1 here. So we've got 2x plus 7. We're going to divide into 2x cubed plus 5x squared minus 19x minus 42. Okay. All right, so I start just like before. 2x, if I divide it into 2x cubed, what would I get? X squared. So I'm going to get x squared, so I have to put it above the x squared term. So when I multiply those, I get 2x cubed plus 7x squared. Change the signs. Those zero out, and I get a negative 2x squared minus 19x. And stop me if I lose you somewhere. I'm just going to assume we're kind of all rocking along here. So I get 2x goes into negative 2x squared. What would I get? Negative x. Good. So negative x, so this is going to be negative 2x squared minus 7x. I change the signs. So this is going to give me negative 12x minus 42. So 2x would go into a negative 12x minus 6. So negative 12x minus 42. Then I change the signs. And those both zero out. So my remainder is 0. And my answer is x squared minus x minus 6. Now, the remainder is not always 0. Right now it is. We'll look at what happens when it isn't. But it's not always necessarily going to be. Okay? If it is, if you do get 0, that means 2x plus 7 is a factor of that thing. If you don't get 0, then it's not. I mean, that's what you're looking at, basically. Everybody okay so far? Questions? All right, so let's look at 6, because 6 is something a little bit different does happen in 6. So let's write this out. X squared plus 8 is going to divide into x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 4x squared plus 24x minus 32. All right, so a couple things are a little bit different here. X squared instead of x, and then also there's a missing term there. So notice here we've got x to the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, like they're all listed. Here I've got x squared, but the x term is missing. So that's going to mean some holes in what I'm doing, and you got to keep up with the holes because that's what's going to make things a little bit confusing for you sometimes. All right, so x squared, we start the same way. X squared goes into x to the 4th how many times? X squared. So I make sure I put it above the x squared. So then x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 8 is 8x squared. So don't put it right next to x to the 4th. It needs to go here. So this is a positive 8x squared. You basically have a plus 0x cubed. Sorry, I lost myself there. Okay, you don't necessarily have to put that in there, but it might help. All right, so then I change the signs. Negative, negative, negative. And these zero out. This is going to give me 3x cubed. And then I'm going to have minus 4x squared. And then I bring down the positive 24x. Okay. So now x squared into 3x cubed is 3x, so plus 3x goes above the x term. So this gives me 3x cubed, and then 24x. Right, and make sure you space them out. You can put a 0 term there if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. I change the signs on those. So these 0 out. This comes down as a negative 4x squared. Those 0 out, and then I have to bring down the minus 32. So then x squared goes into negative 4x squared minus 4 times. So then this gives me negative 4x squared minus 32. Change the signs. And your remainder is 0. Your answer, therefore, is x squared plus 3x minus 4. Isn't this fun? Joe, having fun? Yes, you're having fun. And if you even remotely like math, these are like little puzzles, right? Like it just works out. You know you're having fun. See, you're smiling and stuff. I know. It's okay. You don't have to admit it. All right, we good? What questions do you have? Anything? No. Well, no, we're not done. Because there's some, I mean, I could stop here and let you figure out the rest, but I want to make sure I show you some things. All right, let's see what happens with a non-zero remainder, meaning we're going to have a remainder here. So we're going to start the same way. X plus 1 is going to divide into 3x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 3. All right. So I'm going to let you go ahead and divide. Let's go ahead and work through the division, and you'll see that you don't have a zero remainder. I'm going to work through it too, but without saying anything. That way you can kind of think on your own. If you need to look up here, if you have a question, let me know. Okay? Okay, so we got a remainder of 5? Yes. Okay. So I want you to think about, anybody have any questions? All right, I want you to think, I mean, we're not finished with that one, but over here, when we got this one right here, even though we say 420 and 7/13, basically you're adding this fractional part to it, right? Like if you're going to do it in a calculator and you only had this decimal, then you would just add 420 to it. And so the that's what we're doing here is we're adding the remainder. So your answer is 3x squared plus 4x minus 2. You always add the remainder, even if it's a negative number, and I'll explain that a little bit more later on. But so it's plus 5 over what? X plus 1. There you go, and that is your answer. Okay, we good? All right, so y'all do the next one on your own. I know, it's so terrible. Yes, see, having fun. I want you to have fun without me leading you through it. Well, you can't. You're going to have fun right here instead. That's synthetic division. We're doing that tomorrow. You need to know both for different reasons. Well, actually, you only have to know this one. Synthetic division just makes some of this easier. Remember the other one? Yeah, the other one's a lot quicker, but you have to. But a lot of times people get confused on how to start it. I guess I'll go ahead and work through this one too. So that is what I got. No, it's okay if you're still working on it. Some of y'all are finished, but you can check on that. But if you're not finished, that's fine. If you have a question, let me know. Don't be afraid to ask a question and try to do it without just copying mine down. No giving up. Can't give up on fun. Good job, Michael.
No, it's not minus 6 because you subtract, you plus 6. Because you get minus 6. So you have to subtract negative 6.
So then how is it not 18x?
Let me see how I did it.
Bro, what are you even?
You get a
plus 6x and then you subtract it.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah, minus 3x times a negative 2 gives you a positive 6x. I know, Rigo. Sometimes they just don't listen. They don't want to listen. This negative 3x times 3x is a negative 9x squared. But negative 3x times a negative 2 is a positive 6x. And then you subtract it. You're welcome. All right, everybody good so far? All right, so we'll do 9 together just because it's a trinomial, and you work it the same way, but I don't want anybody freaking out over it. So, yeah, if you want to work through it yourself, yeah, you can. But I'm going to talk through it for the people that need it, so you can just, like, tune me out. So x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus x squared plus 20x minus 10. Because it's really the same process over and over again. If you can do it, with the smaller ones, you can do it with these. So x squared goes into x to the 4th, x squared times. And this is going to give me x to the 4th minus x cubed minus 5x squared. Go through and change my signs. All right. Do y'all all want to work through it on your own and just me shut up? Okay, I can do that. I'll just work through it quietly. You do your thing, and then we'll see if you have any questions. Okay. But don't just copy down what I'm doing. No. Hey, don't just copy mine. But sometimes it's not, so. Okay. Let me know if you are stuck. Hey. What are we stuck on? Okay, so now x squared goes into 4x cubed. How many times?
Oh, that's wrong, Michael.
4x.
No, it's not. You're wrong.
So then plus 4x. You're good.
I'm sorry, because I didn't sleep tonight.
doing the wrong
What? Hey, you know why? No, listen, this is why. Because you're not actually changing the signs because you think you don't need to because you think you can just look at it, but you're messing it up. Change the signs, Michael. Stop being so stubborn. I know, I'm telling you. One of these days, you'll actually believe me. I'm going to make you a believer, Michael. That's my goal. You're a tough one. Oh, that's good. Well, you don't look at them anyway, so it's fine.
I just do them to get a good grade in high school.
All right, so we all good so far? We good on this one? Anybody have any questions? Are you good? Yeah, okay. Are you sure? Because I don't want to rush. Okay. All right, so now missing powers. This is huge, guys. If you have missing powers, this is where if you're not paying attention, it's going to really mess with you. All right? So on here, we get x minus 8 And on the inside here, every single exponent has to be accounted for. So this is x to the 4th. There is not an x cubed term, so you have to put a placeholder, plus 0x cubed. And then minus 64x squared plus 9x minus 80. So there could be more than one missing term, but make sure that there is a placeholder under there or it's going to mess up things, okay? We good? All right, so then as we work through this one, x goes into x to the 4th, x cubed times, and you make sure you put it above that 0 term. So I get x to the 4th minus 8x cubed. Then I change my signs. Michael changed the signs. And then I get 8x cubed, don't sigh at me, minus 64x squared. X goes into 8x cubed, a positive 8x squared times. So I get 8x cubed minus 64x squared. I change the signs. And these both zero out, right? And so then I bring down that 9x. Well, x goes into 0 times, right? So you pretty much have a 0 there, which you don't necessarily have to put, but you're going to have to bring down this minus 80 also. So x goes into 9x, a positive 9 times. And again, there's a 0 term here. You could put it there, but you don't have to. So then this gives me 9x minus 72. Then I change the signs. And these zero out, and I get a negative 8. So my answer is x cubed plus 8x squared plus 9 plus a negative 8 over x minus 8. Always add the remainder. If you had written this, that's what I was about to say. You could put minus and then 8 over x minus 8. However, if your remainder was, and so let's say instead of negative 8, it was negative x minus 8, like that, and then you put that over x minus 8, that is not the same thing as just putting a negative out in front of this and then doing x minus 8. You can't just pull the negative off of there like that. It doesn't make, oh, I didn't mean to use the same numbers. That would cancel out to be your 1 anyway, but sorry, just making up numbers. But you can't do that. So I would suggest you always add. Otherwise, you're going to mess it up on something else, okay? Always add. Trust me. Okay, well then just do what I'm telling you to do. Okay. All right, so on number 11, I want you to do that one, and as soon as you can show me you have the right answer, then you can put this in your ISN and get to work on your assignment. It has to be the right answer, yes. I know, I'm very picky about that. Right, if you were watching the video, then pause it and do number 11 on your own. Okay, if you haven't paused already, pause now. And then you can check the answer. Here is what you should have gotten. 12x squared minus 8x plus 8 plus a negative 4 over x plus 1. There we go.